Z, you ready?
Yeah. I'm right here.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This week, one of the biggest things we get asked over and over and over again is what to look for in a quality instructor. And we cover all of that this week on Warfighter Wednesday. Here we go. What's going on, guys? I'm Bobby James. As always, we're here with 2 Alpha to Quit, Instructor Z, and Willie X Actual. That's one of the things, man. We get asked a lot, right? Z and Kawa, you guys are part of our pro staff. What should guys start looking for when they're looking for an instructor?
Biceps.
Bicep. Okay. All right.
That's for sure one criteria. Well, obviously, like it depends on what you're looking for in an instructor. There's lots of instructors out there because there's lots of different aspects of shooting.
Okay.
Right? You got sports shooting, competition shooting, shotgun only, right? You got the tactical side of the house. And so it kind of depends on what you're looking for and then narrowing it down from there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I agree. Like the great Doc Seth from 5th Group's performance program, right? He said that, I was joking because I came up with that Instructor Z name just to be funny, and it kind of stuck, right? And he said, well, instructor is like the lowest level of educator. You just regurgitate information. I was like, oh. I was like, well, basically that's what I do. There's some things that I feel that I'm an expert on, but for the most part, I do just take a lot of stuff that I know to be true, and I package it in a form to let other people use it.
Okay.
So I think guys that can take, so to sum it up, if we're going to talk about it more, but to sum it up in a definition is guys that can take experience and competency, mesh it together, and then put it in a package for their particular audience.
Okay.
In a way that they can understand.
Or a different audience in a way that they can understand, because, talking to one person is different than talking to this person or that person. So you got to be able to conform the way you're giving the information based off of your ability to receive the information. So all that.
Okay. What do you think, Will?
So going from the outside in, if I was just a normal guy, and what I would look for, it would probably be kind of hard because if you know nothing, and someone can say anything that they want, and you'll be like, yeah, that sounds legit because I don't know. So I'm just going to take what you say and take it in and be like, yeah, that sounds right, sure, because I have no clue. I'm starting at 0. So I think for someone to get in their first instructor, obviously do a bunch of research on the people, see what kind of certifications they have, maybe hit up some guys that have, taken their classes before or something like that, but just do your own research and go off of that. Like I said, if you're kind of a new guy, kind of anything will work for you just because you don't know. So you're just getting the first piece of information. Then after that, you can kind of see like, oh, you know what? I did my own research. What that dude said is kind of stupid. Like,
okay. So we're going to try to prevent all of that stuff. We're going to try to prevent guys from going to just regular guys that want to show them something because they've seen it on YouTube or something like that. Yeah. So we're going to give you guys some of the insight on what you guys should be looking for so you don't happen to make those mistakes running into just, your YouTube guys and people that necessarily aren't benefiting you as far as on a training level, right? I think one of the biggest things that everyone wants to get into, right, is does prior military service or law enforcement service, does that matter?
I think that military or law enforcement service matter because it matters to an extent, right? It's not the end all be all, not by any means. But I think it matters when these guys are talking about life experience and putting having experience in that billet or whatever, either overseas or in the line of duty, and then how they relate that to the drills that they're teaching you, right? We can do range drills all the time and all day, but it takes instructors with actual experience, either in firefights or whatever other kind of experience that they have. It could be even just dealing with people, never fired or shot or whatever, but they bring real life experience to these drills and give you a little more context than just what the mechanics of this drill is, or what the focus or the purpose of this drill is. So so it definitely matters to an extent.
Yeah, I agree with everything Kawa says, of course. One big separator, and I thought about this a lot, because everything I do, I draw from my experience of being scared and fearful when I was in a life-threatening situation. So everything I do to put into context for students when I'm talking about self-defense and talking about the end state for what their training purpose is, right? My end state for them is always to be capable in a self-defense situation, whatever context that's involved with. So combat, out on the streets, getting robbed, whatever. So I always take it back to, I was scared, and I know how much your level of training and competency is going to be reduced in the face of fear when your heart rate is uncontrollably pounding, and that chemical cocktail that people talk about happens, which is out of your control despite your training. Is how you react to the situation, or is where the training kicks in, right? But everybody's going to be scared, and your heart's going to do what it wants. So that being said, and then also being reactive, but usually because I can't preemptively just attack people sometimes, because I'm like, oh, he looks mean, so I better attack him first. Combat strategy, maybe, not in US of A, on the streets. So you're already behind the power curve, and I know what it feels like to be behind the power curve and fall back to some people say the lowest level of training, or the highest level of training. I say basically your highest level of true competency, what you actually do know. So if I've trained something one time, I'm trained in that, but am I competent in that? Like, when the shit hits the fan, am I going to be able to execute that, or I'm going to come back to freaking just banging things and making it work, which a lot of times that was my experience.
Kind of like jiu-jitsu the other day.
Yeah, like
I beat myself up.
Your level of competency is lower because of all the time in between, and then when you got stressed out and fatigued and pressure tested, you went back to just trying to muscle things. Like, I've tried to muscle the gun if I didn't have a finesse way of doing things because I haven't trained it enough. So my biggest takeaway is the experience factor. When it means your life was on the line, that's hard to replace, and it's hard for other people to put into context unless they've experienced something where their life was on the line and they have to utilize their tactics, techniques, and procedures in the face of that. So that's the biggest difference maker right there. And that doesn't mean necessarily that military experience did that. It's just by way of military, I experienced that. So somebody out on the street, cops that have faced life-threatening situations and seen the tachypsychia and the audio exclusion and the tunnel vision and all that stuff, they'll know what I'm talking about, and they'll know that they felt like they were bitches in that moment, most likely, because you're like, I just can't execute the way I want to. And once you think back on it, you're like, damn. And you remember when the tachypsychia, where the time seems to slow down, you actually remember it, right? And you think back like, man, I remember doing that, and I was just watching that happen, and I couldn't freaking do it right way, and I was trying to reload, and I was fucking it up. And that's some of the experience that is just, it's invaluable. Now, again, a military guy is not the only person that could experience that, but that's what my biggest separator between me and somebody that doesn't have a life-threatening experience is to me. I think that's the most important separation there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I have I share this story with a lot of people because just to, in fact, reinforce what Z said, is when we invaded Iraq in 2003, Afghanistan had already kicked off for a couple of years, so we knew we were going somewhere. So the train-ups had already started for the infantry units in the Marine Corps. And we were training hard, man. Like, every day we were training, right? So, and I thought we were good. So when we got to Iraq and we actually crossed the border, I was like, okay, we did this. We trained for this, right? But the first time I was in one of those amphibious assault vehicles, the Amtrak, and we took contact, and I heard those rounds pinging off the outside of this track, and they said, "Ram's going down."
You're like, oh man.
And you know, at that moment,
I'm not trained enough.
yeah, at that moment, the SOP was no mags in the rifles.
Okay.
Right after that, it changed. But we were sitting here, the ramp's going down, and before that, they're like, "Hey, lock and load," and I'm sitting here trying to put my magazine in my M4 that I've done 1 million times in training, and I'm sitting here shaking so bad that I had to like stop myself and like put it in there because I couldn't get it in, man. I was trembling.
And the interesting thing about that, you had a little wherewithal or some time before it actually kicked off.
Yeah.
So you wasn't even reacting to actual like somebody beating his ass right then.
Correct.
No.
He was like about to get off.
Anticipating.
Yeah, anticipating. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was a scary moment, but stuff like that, you just can't. You can't fake stuff like that, and you can't explain it. I mean, you can try to explain it, like I can tell the story, but if you haven't been there, done that, you just don't know. So when we talk about military and LE experience, it's big because then those instructors can talk about the whole psyche aspect of it, and that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah.
So go ahead.
I think being prior military or like LE, it gives another level of validation of what you're trying to teach because you actually implemented the things that you're trying to teach, and that's why you're putting that knowledge on somebody else because. Say you guys are overseas, like I've done this exact thing and it worked. Like that's why I'm telling you guys to do this. So instead of if someone's just coming off the street and just say they're a good shooter, like they can shoot targets, cool. Like that's great. I can learn some things from you, but anything that you tell me tactics or why I'm doing it, it's just theories coming from you. Be like, in my head, this would probably work out the best. But if it's coming from an actual LE or a higher end military guy, there's some concrete validation between or behind why you're teaching it the way that you're teaching it. I feel like that's how I would take it.
So basically, if you're looking at military, right, as one of the precursors for a good instructor or law enforcement or anything like that, I always look at military, right? So you go military. All right, how does the military usually train their troops? It gets broken down into different areas, right? SF, obviously you guys have specialized courses that you guys run, cephalic, Sephardic, all of that stuff. It's an advanced class. When you come in, basic training, all that stuff, all of that curriculum is taught to teach multiple areas of people. You know what I mean? So when I look at that, I go, okay, cool. So if you do have military experience, you might have more of a easier time explaining things to a broad array of students.
Like a diverse audience.
Correct. Yep. So it's more. It's. I don't want to say it's dumbed down to a sense, but it makes it easier to understand when you're teaching a beginner all the way up to a guy that's on a level like you guys.
Yeah, because you could have one, someone there like I just bought this Glock yesterday. Like this is gonna be the second time I shot it, and then you have a guy could be in the same place and be like, this is my third time taking this class or something like that. So I feel like you would be able to range that knowledge, per person since you're used to getting taught in a group like that. So.
Yeah, I think there's something to that for sure. We'll say this caveat to all of that is each individual person in the military and law enforcement, they've had their own individual experiences. So just because there's no blanket statement like this guy did this, he must be this.
Right.
There's no absolute when it comes to that stuff, just like there's no absolute really in tactics, techniques, and procedures, right? So because for one, like you can assume that Z knows what he's talking about. He taught me the banana peel, the break contact drill, where everybody's biting. Yeah, I trained that. I've never applied it in real combat, right? I've never been in that situation in the jungles of freaking Laos, So I could teach you that, but I don't know. I've never, like you were saying, Will, like a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I've tried some techniques and tactics, and I put them to use and seen how they worked and how they didn't. But some things I didn't. Some things I just learned from schools, military schools, or training that we did, and I know how it's supposed to work. We never put it into practice. So don't assume that just because somebody has credentials or whatever that they automatically know everything, right? It's just not that way.
Yeah, but even so, like you just said, and this is just me. Obviously, I'm not an instructor or anything like that. But if I was taught all these things and be like my so odd years of military experience, I never once learned this thing. Like, would you put that in your curriculum? Probably not.
Probably not. If I didn't know what the hell I was doing with it.
Yeah, so I mean, that's just the way I would look at it. If you were taught something, and obviously things have changed over the years.
Well, the other side of that coin is people, and I fell into this trap, and I'll be honest, like, because people expect me to know certain things, they'll ask me, and I feel bad about not knowing. And I'm like, it's almost like when people ask me, do you know that Green Beret from 5th group, John Smith? And I'm like, I wish I did, man. And I feel bad about it, but some people's like, well, you know how to, do all that stuff and do that. And I was like, well, I know of it, but I don't really.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people ask me, like, man, I want to take a long gun course with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, look, man, I'll be honest. I don't know anything about long gun.
Yep.
You know, I could probably employ a long gun.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to teach that. Like, people ask me,
it's
like,
not my bread and butter enough where I can just.
Yeah. Or like even like, some MMA stuff. Like now I want to get I'm like, dude, I could probably handle my own a little bit on the basic level, but even so, I still don't know how to teach.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to know. It's the other thing how to articulate that and teach it and break it down and so that they pick it up.
So does you think that transfers into shooting static or dynamic? Do you think that the more experience you have as far as like service or anything like that, do you think that gives you an edge as an instructor?
Like as far as the competency goes?
Correct. No, you don't think so?
I mean, not the experience. I mean, if your experience is that you've done a lot of reps and had a lot of good training preparing for war and then went and utilized it in war and that made you inherently good at certain tasks, yeah, it plays. But it's really not the experience. It's just how much have you had to put into your craft for your particular competency. Kawa and our particular expertise was a lot to do with CQB type shit, right? So when it comes to up drills and manipulating the gun, so people talk about, like I teach concealed carry stuff, right? I made myself a concealed carry guy. Utilizing, this is one of those things that I never did much in the military, and I have no experience in the real world, yanking my gun out and blasting the guy at Walmart, right? I've never done that. But I've taken all the experience. The experience comes in. I know what it takes to react or be proactive under fearful circumstances, right? I know how to put together certain parts of a task, the micro task or the subtask within that task, and dumb it down for me to get good at one particular part until I can put it all together, much like the 4-step draw from outside the waistband, right? So I just applied everything I've done to become good at the certain things that I am good at. So if you've become good at any one certain facet of life, whether it be sports or freaking shooting or tactics or whatever, and you've got a lot of experience putting shit together in order to make yourself better, can you not do that for any task? And then can you also, if it's a self-defense task that is the purpose of that task is for self-defense, can you not also add in there your experience of being scared for your life and then make a legitimate, I guess not curriculum, but legitimate subject matter based off of all that put together, even though I haven't done so. You can do that as well. But I've proven to myself that I can learn things and be at a high level doing certain tasks, and I can do high level tasks under fear. So take all that together, I feel like I can do any task as long as my body's able and my mind is able. Right? So that gives me that advantage. You know what I'm saying? What do you think on that?
Well, so kind of going back to static versus dynamic, I get that a lot of people want to move and shoot.
That's a new cool thing.
Because that's a cool thing to do, and like it's social media kind of drives a lot of trends and drives a lot of wants, right? But it doesn't drive a lot of needs. So we can't look at social media and be like, man, I really need that. We look at social media and say, I really want that. Because social media drives a lot of wants, people are like, they don't even think about the needs. So when it comes to static, people want to, if I say I'm teaching a pistol 1 and most of the day is static, people are like, oh dude, I already took a pistol fundamentals course. Okay, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you have
This is a waste of my time.
Yeah, and I want to move, and I can't pull them in and say, okay, well, show me some drills to prove to me that you're competent at shooting static before we can put you on the move. But that is what it takes. Like Z said, it takes thousands and thousands of reps to, master. I use that word lightly, but master a certain mechanic or drill before you can apply that on the move, right? And it's hard to convey that on social media. It's hard to convey that when you're having a conversation with people. The only way to really convey that is on the range, And so those students kind of have to invest in you and take your word for it that my pistol 1 is going to be different from your basic NRA instructor pistol 1. And when you come out to my course, you will see that for yourself. You will get a real good understanding of where you are static, and now you'll know if you're actually ready to move or not. But that's kind of like one of those things that I have to answer all the time,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Dude, just let Brandon come out and do a video of your pistol one. People be like, sign me up, dude. That shit was in. Oh my god,
Right?
you see that?
Well, some of that is like what he's saying, like people with the sensationalism of the internet and anything on TV, right? Everything is high speed. It's just like buying stuff. Like people, I see stuff that I want to buy that's outside of my budget, and sometimes people can get themselves in trouble by purchasing things and they really can't afford it on the back end. Right? Same thing here though. I see all this movement, I see sexy stuff, and I'm like, let's go straight to that. And even I've done that. After they say 21 days, your skills start degrading, whatever task, and then not necessarily all the way, but they begin the degrading process at 21 days. So me, all the training that we've had, there's some things that I haven't practiced in a long time. Then I get back on radio and I feel I have to slow myself down because I'll be like, ugh, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, let me slow this back down. I used to be that fast. I can't be that fast anymore. So I need to start slow, and it'll come back to me a little faster than most maybe, but I got to start slow. Another benefit of the military, one big thing, and I just thought about this again when you were talking. Carl and I were talking about it in our last class. We did a advanced rifle class, but we started off just guys zeroing, confirming zeros, and the whole thing was we want you to get your zero on paper for whatever your zero is, and I want you to confirm it at actual distance. And I want it to be, the external ballistics, that's what you're zeroing up close. So if I'm doing a 5200, so I can start at the 10 yard with an inch and a quarter freaking hold off, and then I'll check it at 50, and then I'll check it at 200. Right, and then I'll adjust to my 200, and then I'll come back and see where am I really hitting at 50. Is that because it's not exactly the same, right? It's not exactly the same level. So, but what we noticed was guys they sucked at zeroing, just what we've done billions of times. So what I'm saying is the military institution, the way it was designed, where you had to have a bunch of people and you all had to do it dumbed down and slow. Like everybody lay down, everybody keep your weapons pointed down range. Everybody, you do this, you shoot 5 times. First, so because you got that cold bore shot, and then, and you make sure they make you take a breath, pause, and then they're making you go through all this bull crap, this regimented crap that we didn't know what we were doing though. Yep. But being forced to do that made us get those reps that we wouldn't have done on our own. If you would have had me, if I never served in the military, and you had wanted me to get behind a gun and sit here and zero and take my time, I'd be like, oh my god, this is stupid.
Now you zero gun and you shoot one round and be like, I see where I'm at.
Yeah.
You're like,
but
shoot another round.
It's easy for us now. It's like I know like little things like you zero, I shoot, I hit, when I make my adjustments, I tap my freaking sight because we know that when Army abuse sights, the gears might not be moving like they should. I check to make sure it's mounted wrong because I've experienced where shit wasn't mounted right. I'm making sure my gun's not canted one way or the other. I'm looking down, I'm resting my eye and looking back because I've done those reps of all that bullcrap that's required to be accurate. Same thing with what you're talking about. Guys want to go shoot fast, but they don't realize that I was made in certain institutionalized training events. I was made to do the same thing 100 times. Up drills. Nobody wants to go to a class and I'm like, well, guess what we're doing? We're doing a bunch of up drills. And they're like, oh, great, we did this, and we did it from the left, and we did it from the right. And I understand that. But I understand that is necessary for it to become that mastery or that muscle memory or however you want to define that for you. Right, it's necessary, and I understand as a civilian, if I wasn't made to do that, I probably wouldn't do it. I was made to do it though.
Yep. Yeah, and just so you guys understand, as instructors, it's boring to teach, right? We want to get to that cool stuff, trust me, but we also know that we got to work our way up there. So when you come to our classes and you're like, "Fuck, man, we've been doing ready ups for 2 magazines and I'm smoked," guess what? It's in your favor, and we're right there with you. We're not getting smoked because we're watching you make on-spot corrections, but we know that you need to get those reps in order to progress as a shooter, right? It's just as boring for us to teach, and it might be as boring for you guys to do if you've done them especially, but it's just the way of the gun, man. So.
All right, so do we say that if you're looking for an instructor, one of the bonuses is prior military or law enforcement service?
I say it's going to give you a leg up.
It's going to give you a leg up?
It's going to give you a leg up. Doesn't mean it's not the end all be all.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, especially if that instructor knows how to articulate that, really kind of relate that experience and stuff to the curriculum that he's teaching, you're going to have a huge advantage over people that don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I would take things that he would say more to heart than I would if he was just a good shooter. If he was just a good shooter, I'd be like, okay, well, that's a good way to look at things. Like, I'll think about that. If he was like prior military or, you know, Ellie or something, like that's a little bit more definite way that I would take it a little bit more to heart.
Okay. So what about experience, right? So I would probably take someone that has experience in a situation in which he's trying to teach me over somebody that might have been in the military, never did anything, never, you know, deployed or anything like that, or LE guy or civilian. If I had a guy that was in that he had that experience, like what you talk about, you know, I have that experience, you know, I'm teaching you from experience. This is what has happened. Usually you get that with law enforcement or military guys, right? So,
well, I will say, and then one caveat is, if you're not looking for defensive skills or combat skills or that kind of mindset, and you're just looking for performance, or you're just looking for specifically competition, then, you know, that's a moot point, you know, so you don't need those guys, because, I mean, maybe they can relate it to stage matches and stuff like that, you know, maybe they can, but if you're not looking for that, then at least that narrows down your search.
I would think that would be the very first thing that you would want to do, is figure out what kind of shooting you even want to do. How far do you want to do?
Right.
Do you want to just be fast at shooting, just to be fast because that's your hobby and that's what you like to do? Or do you want to get taught to totally change your mindset and how you look at things and how you perceive, you know, a situation? Because obviously it's going to differ between.
It's all based off of what you want your instinct to go ahead.
correct.
Well, I was gonna say, like, there's also guys out there that will preach, well, I'm teaching performance and I'm teaching just performance or speed, but then they, you know, they act like and they speak like, you know, they want to, you know, shoot people in the face and you know, and get ready for the boogaloo and this all that, and you know what I mean. So it's like you gotta pick one or the other. You know, you gotta stick. If you have a narrow lane, then stick in your narrow lane. You're gonna bring more value that way. You're not gonna dilute yourself. You know, but if you have you have a bigger spectrum of things to teach, then by all means do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are some of the things people shouldn't look for? Like, what are some of the red flags you would say when looking for an instructor?
Well, one thing for sure is if you have somebody now, and I've been guilty of this in my career, in my life, right? Of thinking, you know what, like if I was only taught one way and I was only exposed to that one thing, I was ignorant to other things, right? I was short-sighted, and I've been that way. I think everybody's been that way at one point in their life. I've been that way and been like, you don't do it this way, you must be stupid. That's not how we do it. Instead of thinking, it was more of a
My way or the highway.
yeah, it was more, you know, this is the way that I've done it, and I've committed so much to that, and that's the way all our guys do it. So don't critically think, just go with that, and anybody does different. That was a safe place, right? We're part of the crew, we all do it the same way. And then I started learning to critically think, so I got new perspective, right? Different perspective. I'm like, so I think anybody, not necessarily they're bad instructors, right? A great instructor could tell you that there's absolutes and say this is the only way to do it, and he can communicate information very well and know what he's talking about and be able to perform very well. It doesn't make him a bad instructor. That just makes him short-sighted and he's not very experienced and hasn't seen many things from a different perspective. Maybe he hasn't opened his mind and listened to other people. Maybe he's in his own head and not taking any input from anybody else, or whatever the case may be. But I realized in my old 40 years that you got to have different perspective. And if I don't agree with you right when you start to say something, I take a second now. I don't just be like, oh, you're stupid. I say, okay, let me hear, because maybe there's something I didn't think of, because I know that's possible. I'm not I'm not a perfect person like anybody. So I think anybody that tells you, hey, this is the only way to do it, this is the way you should do it. I do have certain ways that I teach people to do things, like the way we load and unload. I've taught that a certain way, and I can't find any reason why not to do that, and it's very thorough. And when it comes to safety administratively, why wouldn't I take all precautions necessary? So this way I look at it, I'm like, this is a baseline. And I tell my guys now, and we were made to do it. Like when we were training in our schools, like, you got to do that, and don't you catch that round, don't you you better look in there, and I better see you doing it, right? I don't do that. You have to do that in the military institution. There again, they're making us get those reps. But I tell people, this is the baseline. This is what I want you to do. And I was like, if you don't even take my baseline, what I'd like you to do at least is keep it in your workspace, be thorough, and know the status for sure, and be able to do it in the dark as well, right? So if you can do that and you got a way to do that, that's fine. And I'll tell you why I wanted you in the workspace, and I'll tell you why I want you to be thorough. And if you don't do it exactly that way, no big fucking deal. It's not the only fucking way, right? So anybody tells you this is the only way, and if you do it any way other than this, then you're fucking wrong. Now, when it comes to safety, yeah, if you point barrels at me, if you put your finger on the trigger, you are fucking wrong when it comes to guns. But anything other than that, tactics, techniques, procedures, context changes, the times change, the bad guys change, the equipment changes. So we got to change as well. So it's not always the same fucking way, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's not an absolute. So what works for you, as long as it's safe and it meets the requirements for whatever context you're using it in.
Yeah, safety probably would be the only absolute. Any kind of tactics or scenarios you could do, I guarantee I could come up with something that would fuck that up. Why you can't do it that way? So it's just per thing. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns so far?
I think that I mean Z hit it, like he beat that dead horse. So the my way or the highway kind of instructors, I wouldn't say completely discard them or whatever, because like Z said, there's a lot of good instructors out there, and they're just maybe set in their way for one thing or a couple things, and they're like, hey, I really like this, and that's the only one to teach you, right? In fact, I know a couple of those guys, but I still promote them as instructors because I know they have so much more to bring. You know, and so
they're still an asset to the community.
Yeah, they're still completely an asset. Yeah, you know, but like I always teach, you know, like these are all the ways to do it. You know, this is my preferred way, and I, you know, with all the ways to do it, I tell them the pros and cons of each way. I tell them and I show them that my preferred way of why I choose that, and I tell them, you know, while we're up here getting these reps for this next drill, I want you to try these different methods because you might have fell in love with one of them, but you didn't try these other three. You don't know if you like it better or not, you know? And you pick the one that works for you, you know, and that's it. Almost everything we do has multiple ways of getting it done. You know, after safety's paramount. Got that. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing. I think the other thing to look for when we're talking about maybe red flags for instructors is, you know, the guys that, okay, so I don't know. I might kind of get in trouble with this one, but I'll go ahead and throw it out there. But like I feel like, you know, the guys that just want to smoke you all day on a range.
Yes, agreed.
You know, and they might put you through like 6 drills. Now, if that's you know, caveat that if that's the course, if he says, look, this course is half just physical, grueling, whatever, you know, obstacles, whatever, and the other half is like pistol work or rifle work, and you're cool with that, great. But if you're showing up to take a rifle class and a pistol class, and for about 3-4 hours of that, you've been just carrying cans and throwing this and doing that, and you know what, it's kind of a waste of time, to be honest, because like I don't need to teach somebody how to smoke themselves. You know, I mean, maybe I do, but I'm not going to waste my time as an instructor and their hard-earned money and time to smoke them. I'm going to teach you a bunch of skills and tools for your toolbox, and you cherry pick whichever one you want. And then when you feel like smoking yourself because you feel like you want to make it more physically grueling or more stressful, then add that yourself. Now, at the end, I do have some, you know, stress shoots and compilation exercises that we kind of do, and there's some stress there because I want them to be stressed, you know. But I don't know. See, and that's why I kind of almost was hesitant to say that, because I've seen a couple instructors and I've seen some of their courses, and some people have told me like, man, we spent half the day just getting smoked, you know. And I wish we'd have shot more, you know. But
yeah, that would. Oh man, if I took a class like that, I'd be like, I've had enough time, you know, beat my fucking face on the ground. I don't need to do it here. Teach me how to shoot a gun. Like,
they need to be clear about what's my. Just like you need to know what your end state is for your skill base. Like, are you trying to compete? Because you might want to reload every time you move, or reload and waste bullets like they do in competition, whatever. Or you're doing for self-defense, so you want to think about the tactical aspects, not losing ammo. What is your end state? And then as an instructor, I think about, all right, what am I trying to get you to at the end of this course? So for me, you know, I break it down and he's done these. That's why I break it into small blocks. If you want to do dynamic, then that's going to be moving. Maybe we're moving to get smoked a little bit. Maybe we're not. We're going to work on controlling your breath. So the purpose is to be in a fight and know that your heart rate's going to go up and you're breathing. And you're going to have to address that breathing when you don't normally have to do that in a lot of shooting, right? Because it's it doesn't bother you. You just don't breathe, or you're not breathing hard enough to bother you. And then, so they got to know what my end state is. What am I trying to get you out of this course? So if they say, like you're talking about, they're doing PT and they tell you, hey, well, this is what I want you to do. All you guys are decent shooters. You're safe. You're pretty effective, right? To different degrees. Now I want you to do it while under physical stress. And this is what we're doing. So it's kind of like an advanced level. Like do it with extra stress. Anything basically, and advanced to me, and I know there's more educated definitions out there, but advanced to me is like basic stuff done when it counts consistently. So when everything else is bothering me, whether it be emotional shit, physical shit, obstacles in the way, you trying to hurt me, which involves emotion and physical shit, then I can still implement the basics very well. That's advanced shit right there. That's what advanced is. Basics is there's no other stimuli, nothing else to bother me, and I can implement the basics and do the basics, and it's controlled, right? Go ahead. I'm kind of getting off subject.
Yeah, no worries. So before we get into our next topic, let's name off some good instructors or instructors that you would recommend. Let's do one each. What do you got?
Can't say yourself.
Can't say yourself.
Well, you know, the C is.
There's just 2 hours for the quick.
Yeah.
I think, of course, Kawa, and I think Carl, my buddy, tactical rifleman, because there's not many people. And I'm going to say 2. I'll say 2, and I'll give you a good reason for both of them, and then I'll pass it on. So Carl, with tactical rifleman, because he's got a lot of the repetition we have. He's a generation ahead of me.
Okay.
Or before me, right? In the SF years. And he has a unique way of making analogies and anecdotes that really apply to what he's trying to teach you, and it's very interesting. Right? You know, it's entertaining, but it also goes well, meshes well with the information he's trying to give you. Great guy for that. And then I also say my good friend Mick, who's a carry trainer, civilian, no military background, no law enforcement background, but very passionate about what he's teaching and very thorough about the information that he's putting out there. So it's not somebody that says, hey, I shoot pretty good, let me teach people. He said, well, I'm going to go learn as much as I can, do as much as I can to train myself up, and then I'm going to use my passion and my ability to instruct people and help people out and give them information.
Okay.
So that's who I got.
So I'll name 2 that I've trained with. So I can, it's not speculation. It's actually I train with these guys. And one is actually Mike Knockout Lights.
Okay.
He's a long-time SWAT guy. But, if you follow his page, what Mike loves to do is question conventional methods, right? So everything he does looks like controversy. He looks like he's kind of attacking some people, some, protocol stuff, and he catches some slack. But honestly, man, he makes you think. And, training with Mike over the last 2 years, I've gotten some stuff from him from the LE world that makes sense. He's got some stuff from me from the SF world. And I think he's a great instructor. And you should definitely take his course. The other one is Paul from Pace Performance. Paul is also the armor for Agency Arms. So if you look up Pace Performance, he's a great instructor. He's more of one of those performance type instructors. He doesn't try to preach tactics and combat stuff. He just wants to teach you how to shoot better, become more efficient. So he's a great guy. And then I haven't trained with Johnny, but Courses of Action, I've talked to Johnny plenty of times. We've hung out plenty of times, and we're supposed to be teaching sometime this year together. But from everything that everyone's told me about Johnny, he's a great instructor. So check out Courses of Action, Pace Performance, and Knockout Lights.
Okay. Me, I haven't trained with him yet, but I really want to take his AK course, and that would be Clint Smith, Thunder Ranch, right? I watch his videos. Dude's on it, man. I just love how he breaks it down. He's like, rah, 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 you know what I mean? But he's like, just how how he comes across, that's why we stick our head around the car, not up on top of the car. Someone will put a canoe in your head.
I think it'd be interesting too. I think
so he would get my vote right there. What you got?
I'm pretty unqualified to answer that question.
Okay.
Who do you think's sexy though?
Instructor Z is definitely the sexiest instructor. I would say I'm pretty unqualified to give recommendations for that. I have taken limited classes in my time, and the classes I did take will be unnamed for my reputation's sake. But I would give a piece of advice is to not limit yourself to one class and one instructor, but to branch out. I would say you can. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. Obviously, people say so. If you can get into as many classes as you can with as many different instructors, you can kind of pick and choose what information that you take and what you liked, what you didn't like, and some guy will tell you something that that the other one didn't, and there's just another tool for your toolbox right there. So I would say taking as many classes as you can. Everyone says no one needs a $3,500 rifle. They need a $1,000 rifle and $2,500 worth of classes. So I would say that would be the best advice I can give to somebody. But don't go into that next class thinking with some big dick energy because someone else taught it the other way, because that's a good way to get.
Well, final thought on that is what I've learned as an instructor is I like to see other instructors, and whether or not somebody's teaching me something that I feel like I'm already exposed to and accustomed to, I like to see how they explain it, because some way I say it sometimes may not
come off to people.
They might not understand.
Yeah.
It might not resonate with them, and I find different ways to explain things. Like people have different ways for talking about how to line up sights, different ways for how to do things, to be the 3/4 rule, or sliding. Carl says sliding into second base. I'll run as fast as I can, then I'll slide in. Talking about the 3/4 to pick up the sights, things like that. So I'm always learning. So even something as a student, maybe I hear something from you, and we all got our time. Sometime one idea might click with you at this point in your life, when it clicked at this point in my life, and then an idea that you already know clicks in my head at this point in my life because I was heard it a different way, or I was just ready for it. So go see that, because some things that instructors tell you're not going to receive everything somebody tells you in a class. It's like, fire hydrant in your face. And especially if you don't know a lot of stuff, you're like, I think I got, okay. You reset the trigger when you're ready to shoot, again.
Yep.
But anyway, so look at it that way, and then keep going to classes, and somebody will explain it in a way that resonates with you. Maybe it clicks with you, that not because the other instructor was bad, but because you identified with it better. So there's different ways to explain things. And then same thing as instructor, I like to hear what instructors say, because sometimes I steal their shit and be like, that's a good way to explain it. And I was explaining it like a knucklehead.
Yeah.
And you did it pretty plainly. So maybe I can use that, because in the end, a good instructor, he's not worried about letting you know he's a good instructor. He's worried about getting you results for you. That's what it's student based. We're based off the student. So what's good for you? Maybe it's not for me to sit here and tell you how much I can do. Maybe it's for me to just let you do something and give you an idea explained in your terms or your terminology that resonates with you. So that's real key right there.
I think some of the best instruction comes from people that know how to break it down to that lowest denominator, right? And so even though they're, tier 1 awesome guy like Ninja, but they understand the audience they're addressing, and so if I'm standing in front of a bunch of door kickers, I'm not going to necessarily put them down with my verbiage and break it down potato head style. But at the same time, it's how I articulate that so that they retain it and understand it, right? Versus if I'm standing in front of a bunch of newbies who've only picked up a gun once, my verbiage is going to change. Yeah. Right? And I'm not going to throw all these high-speed acronyms and concepts at them. I'm going to break it down to the lowest denominator. So articulation, perspective, verbiage, all that stuff is what makes great instructors, and what makes good instructors into even better instructors, because they pick it up from other instructors, So as a student, you guys should be like a sponge just soaking it all in. And as a student, like Will said, you guys have the luxury of going to all these different instructors in schools, whereas us, we may not have that same luxury, So definitely take advantage of that.
All right, good deal. So if you guys have any recommendations to this video, stay up for 30 days, make sure you drop that in the comments. If you've taken a course from somebody and you had good results, make sure you let everyone else know that. Drop it in the comments box.
I got one for you from Tony Scheller. Sorry if I mess it up, Tony. Have any of you attended a tactical response class with James Yeager? So I can't talk tonight.
I have. Yep, I took fighting pistol with James Yeager. We were James Yeager's class 3 dealer. So all his stuff from Spikes came up to us at our retail store. He invited us out to a course, and we went out and we shot with them. Will went out there with us. It was me. I took another guy out there with us, and we took a couple of our employees out there.
What else you got to say about that?
Oh no! I mean, it was it was a class, man. It was one of the first classes that we did. We honestly shot a lot. We shot a lot. There was no mishaps in the class. I felt like everything that they were teaching. James Yeager wasn't the instructor at the class, but the information that was getting taught to us seemed to be very, very knowledgeable, and it worked. It worked for that class.
The thing that I absolutely like the most, and I've referred to it actually a couple times in some of our earlier episodes, is like the legal stuff in the classroom time that we had. I think I took most out of that because he definitely opened my eyes to some things that I didn't think about before.
I don't know. You guys have never taken one of Yeager's classes?
No.
Okay, so the first part of his course, you literally spend an hour to 2 hours in the classroom, and he teaches you all of the legal things that happen after you are in a gunfight. What you should do if you are ever in a gunfight. He tells you, if you call the police, don't say there's been a shooting. You know what I mean? Like, identify yourself as, hey, you know what? Listen, I am the person, that is calling. This is what has happened.
I think that's a good idea.
You know, and he gets it from his law enforcement background, and so he says, hey, be prepared. That was the easy fight. Now you have a legal fight and all, and he breaks that down like, this is what you should do. You should join this group. This group will give you concealed carry insurance. They'll pay for your lawyer, and stuff like that. So he has a very informative intro.
I did take a lot out of that aspect. I think we should hammer into that.
Yes, absolutely. So next topic that we're talking about, right, is just because you can doesn't mean you necessarily should, right? So we'll try to get through this pretty quick. We might extend this past the hour mark.
Yeah, because
we'll try not to. So we had a 20-year-old kid. I'm gonna call him a kid, right? 20-year-old kid after 2 mass shootings, one in Ohio, one in El Paso. And a kid decides it's a good idea, and that's him right there. He decides it's a good idea to put on some body armor, grab 100 rounds of ammo, sling his rifle, and go walk in a Walmart as a social experiment to see what people thought, and if his Second Amendment rights would apply in that situation. A fireman on the way out, an off-duty fireman on the way out, held him at gunpoint until police got there, and he is now being charged as a domestic terrorist, right? So 20 years old, being charged as a domestic terrorist, for one, lucky to be alive, right, in that situation, especially right after that, but what's your thoughts on that? I mean, I know what they are, but let's
Can I go first?
Yeah.
So at your very basic fine line level, at the very, very bottom, yes, legal, yes, you can do that, yes, it falls within the Second Amendment right. At the whole blossom of stupidity coming from that, no, don't do that. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, the whole damn title is just because you can doesn't mean you should, but to come in there, and he didn't even have it strung on his back. He had it low, ready to rip body armor and all that stuff. Like, what you're asking to get shot, 100% you're asking to get shot by either a civilian or a police officer. Mm-hmm. And then what are you gonna say if a police officer rolls up? Be like, oh no, like dude, you're at the low ready with 100 rounds of ammunition and body armor. How am I supposed to take this right now? After this just happened a week ago, I'll never process this. I'll never process anything like this. I could go on for a long time about how dumb.
Well, maybe it was in the Middle East and that was kind of the normal. It'd be okay, but considering that somebody we had one active shooter that was wearing almost the same shit, old Boogaloo guy, right? It looked kind of similar to that guy, freaking wearing that same stuff with a rifle, and he's in a Walmart, and not to mention that it was less than a week prior. It was Walmart, El Paso Walmart, where somebody shot up the Walmart. Like, that's an experiment to see if you get shot or not. Like, that's what that was. Like, he's very lucky. I'll let y'all put your thoughts in. We can talk about what they did to him. We were talking about before.
Well, I mean, I don't know this kid's background. I don't know his story. I know that, yes, he was young. He was a 20-year-old. And I think that he was probably trying to genuinely try to do the right thing. But it just came off wrong, man. Like, and him saying, I just wanted to get a reaction from people is really... just tells me he had the wrong mindset from the get-go.
Yeah, I don't think he was going in there with good.
That's attention seeking to me. If you're
yeah,
like,
I don't think he's going in there with good. I don't think he's going in there and be like, I'm going to be upholding Second Amendment citizen here to protect these citizens. Like, I don't think so at all. I think he was like, I got an AR-15. Let's go see how many people I can rile up at this fucking Walmart.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly how he went about it because. Yeah. Anyways,
I hope it's not a fallout from social media wanting popularity. Cause everybody does this shit. Like you got guys that come up. You seen the videos where they jump out, they go in the hood, and they try to scare some dudes.
Yeah.
And it backfires on them oh, we're scared. And then they're like, let's whoop his ass.
Like the dudes that dress up as clowns and they come out and that dude pulls a gun and shoots.
It's entertaining.
Them.
It's entertaining, but it's a lot. I mean, you're risking a lot there, especially that considering that this is almost the exact same thing that people are on the lookout for right now, based off of recent events, right? So we're looking. If you come into Walmart at Fort Campbell, where all these military guys are, myself included, and there's a lot of carriers and guys that just have the mindset to help where they can, and I see you walking in like that, I might not shoot you right off the bat. I'm not going to shoot you because I understand my legal limitations, but I'll probably tackle your ass at least. Or try to get. You're gonna get hurt. I'm strategically moving in on you, like what the hell is going on here? Yeah. My kids are out. It's scary. It's scary.
Yeah.
And I would be mad at you because I'm like, especially if my kids are there, I'll be like, and you're like 20-year-old or not, I'm gonna be fucking mad at you. I'm like, why? I just ran my kids outside. They're scared, right? What are you doing?
I mean, even if it was just a show of force or whatever it was, or if you were just testing your Second Amendment rights or whatever, I think that you have to have enough common sense to know that a traumatic incident just happened a week ago, was it? And now you're coming in almost imitating the bad guy at the exact same type of venue, and people are gonna get freaked out. And he's lucky he didn't get shot, because if he did get shot and he died, he wouldn't have had a story to tell. Correct. So we would have never known that this kid is trying to do the right thing, even though he made a dumbass decision. But now he's dead, and the only thing that we know about this kid is there's a dead dude that was armored out with a rifle, and I would have believed the story if they said he was a domestic terrorist.
Yeah. And then he's just known to his friends and family of the dude that almost just shot up a Walmart.
He would have been dead, and they would have blamed killing what's his name in his jail cell, Epstein.
Yeah,
he was the guy that did it.
Yeah.
It wasn't Hillary Clinton. Yep. So that's what it was.
He had information.
Yeah. You were talking about this. Was this true that you said that they're labeling him a domestic terrorist now?
Yes. Yeah, that is the headline now. They're going to charge him as a domestic terrorist.
Even though it was very distasteful doing that, and he didn't put a lot of sense into it, and his sister knew he was going to do it, so she should have talked him out of that. Shame on you, sister. You should have went and tackled him. But we were saying this, and I agree with you, Kawa, when you said that I don't think his life should be ruined over this. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely punish him. He would be doing some community service. I'd have him writing. I'd go old school on him as a judge or something. I'd be like, you're writing essays about making critical thinking and making informed decisions and keeping up with current events, right? And
yeah, I mean, it's a gray area, right? Because we don't want to set a precedence that says he was that he was completely doing the wrong thing, and we don't want to infringe on the Second Amendment. By labeling him guilty. We just know that he made a stupid decision.
Yeah,
right?
He's not guilty not guilty for the act, but he's a fucking idiot for the act.
So he's not guilty because nothing he did was illegal.
I don't think he should pay the rest of his life.
Right. So he should, but there should be some consequence. There should be some kind of like volunteer work or something.
So when you say that there should be some kind of consequence. If there's a consequence, that means that you did something wrong. Okay.
See, that's why I was careful about the way I worded it.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So when we talk about this, right? This is the bottom line, and I think this is what everyone's trying to get at. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Second Amendment is under attack right now in the United States, probably more than it's ever been, right? And you going and doing something like that to bring a negative light onto law-abiding gun owners, right? It's not appropriate, okay? What you did in that Walmart, not appropriate. It wasn't appropriate because of the gun. It was just not appropriate because of the time, okay?
Very distasteful.
You know, it was distasteful, right? You have a carry permit. If you do have a carry permit, right? You carry a gun, right? I understand if you want to carry a rifle or something like that, it is not common. It's not common to do that, right? So with that, if you're trying to see how far your Second Amendment rights go, and if someone's going to say something to you, bringing in an AR-15 rifle, right? Maybe spend some of that energy fighting the red flag laws that they're trying to bring up now. Donate to places like the FPC, Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America. You know, help those guys out. Those guys are in there fighting those legal battles every single day. But just because you can go into a store with your AR-15 does not mean that you should do that, right?
Look at the accoutrements that come along with it that added context to what he was doing. When you're wearing body armor,
correct,
and you're carrying ammo on you, and you look like that, if you was carrying a gun and you're just carrying like one, and like, yeah, maybe you get away with that. It's still bad timing, kind of, but it's not really about the gun. It's about what I see when I look at you. I'm like, you got body armor, he's going to war. I'm thinking he's getting ready for a battle.
Perception, yeah.
Right. And then also, I think somebody mentioned in one of the articles, like, hey, same as like pulling a fire alarm. Like, you are yelling fire in the theater. Maybe you're not actually did anything wrong. Maybe you yell fire and people run out. So you don't want to raise alarm for no apparent reason, right? It's a bad timing in general. And it's not about the gun per se. It's like you said, the timing and then the context involved with him wearing body armor and everything. It's like, hey, come on, what? Of course, I think you're about to kill somebody.
You wear body armor when you carry your Glock every day.
No,
but his intention that he obviously made was also wrong.
Yeah,
correct. I just want to see how people are going to react. Mm-hmm. That is the wrong intention.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Maybe that just goes back to like the millennial mindset of I have no consequences for my actions. I can just kind of do what I want.
It's the same. It's the same concept as people carrying open carry, which I completely disagree with. You know, like in Georgia when I was there stationed at Fort Stewart for a little bit of time, I saw people open carrying everywhere, and it blew my mind, man. I was like, just because you can open carry, why are you open carry? Because that you just paint a target on your back. In this case, this kid was the target. You know, he was the target because all the eyes were drawn to him, and then that firefighter saw him and drew on him, and luckily saved his life possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the better story with all this is the firefighter that was a responsible gun owner,
correct,
and handled the situation instead of what could have been real bad is if this kid did do this search experiment in bad taste, bad decision, and then this firefighter amped up like some people are, like, I can't wait to kill the motherfucker. I can't wait to do some self-defense and kill the motherfucker. And he's like, oh, got him, bow. Well, this guy was composed enough that he, for one, I think he was videoing, I think that video was of him, right? Like, you could tell he wasn't like trying to get, I don't think he was thinking like, let me get this for Instagram. He was just thinking, let's have some proof to cover my ass. So hopefully that's what he's thinking. That's kind of smart to be working the gun and the camera if that's what he's doing, or somebody his loved one maybe was holding the camera. I don't fucking have enough information.
I think he's
about
just trying to make a fucking viral video.
I'll tell you.
I think that's all he was trying to fucking do.
Well, it could have been a lot worse because if he was really concerned about looking cool, he would have been videoing me shooting this motherfucker down. I've got all the rights in the world. Look at him. He's a fucking. He's a boogaloo guy.
No, he's talking about the guy that did it.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, I'm talking about the fucking fireman.
Yeah.
Well, the fireman had his phone in the car.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
And I don't know enough about who was recording it or if he had somebody with him.
I thought you were talking about the kid. I was like, then he's definitely just doing that.
Well, it's a great example of a responsible gun owner that was paying attention to his environment, taking into. He was aware of everything going on, and he just didn't freak out and start shooting and be like, I got my gun. There's a guy with a gun. Kill him. Right? He did very well. So that's a plus for the 2A community, I believe. That's a good job by him.
Yep. But guess what? Guess what stopped that? A guy with a gun.
Yeah.
Right.
I just feel like if you're going to be, doing your carrying thing, there's absolutely a level of responsibility, and there's just like a level, I don't know, there's just like a level of class. Like get some fucking class, dude.
No,
like
it's a mindset.
There's a huge difference between a father or a mother or someone concealed carrying like a Glock 43 or something like that. But like I know why I'm doing this, and it is to protect my family because I have that right to do that. But when you're just doing it to show off your fucking big dick energy for no reason whatsoever, you're not even holding, or you're not even representing why the Second Amendment's even there. You're just doing something for no reason whatsoever, except to harm the whole community and to rile up these people for no reason.
And hopefully it doesn't give more ammunition to those that are against the gun community and like, see, we told you they're crazy. They're fucking
Exactly. Be like, see, they're just a bunch of rednecks with guns.
Uncle Carl, let me shout out Uncle Carl. He puts, he's got great quotes, but he tells me something like, he's like, he meets guys and they're like, they see he's got a gun and like, what do you expect to be in a gunfight? He's like, no. If I was expecting a gunfight, I'd have my rifle. Mm-hmm. It's like, so, and I like that mentality. It's like, yeah, I'm not walking around thinking, what the fuck is going to happen? I'm just walking out. This is a fail-safe, right? So that's why I got a little gun with little capacity relatively to a rifle, and it's concealed on me just in case something happens, just in case. Like, that's why I wear seatbelts, just in case. I don't plan on wrecking, right? And if I was expecting a gunfight, I knew that out here, hey, it's martial law. Streets are fucking crazy. People's trying to take everything. Yeah, I'm going to get my fucking rifle and my body armor, and it's going to be, you're going to understand the context of why I'm wearing this. So, like Uncle Carl says, hey, buddy, if you're going to Walmart, there's no reason to expect a gunfight yet, unless you already know there's wild asses in there, right? Yeah. But, so just consider your gun. Be cool about it.
All right, what do you guys got? Closing.
I got a couple of follow-ups from the instructor stuff.
What do we got?
Owen Thorne asks, where do instructors go to train yourselves and learn new skills or new approaches to existing skills?
That'll be Kawa and Z.
I think we touched on that.
You did. You touched on it a little bit.
Well, we train with other people. We talk about instructors that we train with. Yeah. Me, I keep tabs with the guys that I served with that are the younger generation under me. And I find out what's new and improved based off people that's still serving in the military, which is just for military context. But also, I don't like to see everything on the internet. I don't like to see everything on it. Sometimes I get pissed at it because, I'm human and I'm like, this motherfucker's stupid. Anyway, we all do that a little bit. So, but the flip side of that coin is I like to be up to date on good ideas. Like you mentioned Mike from Knockout Lights, and I met Mike, and I think he's very knowledgeable. And there's some things that might not be received well, but I see it and I'm like, well, you know what? I can think about that. I can put that in. That's a good question to pose to people, and I can put some thought into that. So I just keep my eyes open, and it's called critical thinking, really. I think critically, what's the threat? What's the context now? How's it changed? And what needs to change are the same things that I'm doing working with that same scenario. But exposing yourself to other instructors. I mean, I know I need training. If I don't maintain my training, it's not like I just magically fucking keep that shit and I magically maintain everything I've ever fucking learned. I go to guys, I get reminded of it. I review certain texts and stuff that I have that I went over 100 times. I see what Kawa's doing. I see what Mike's doing. I see what Mick's doing. I see what Carl's doing. And we take information from others, and I take some and I leave others, just like a student would do in a regular class. I take some of that. Some of this I don't like. I'll leave that.
Yeah, I think for me, I train who I can train with if they're local. Like, I'm not gonna fly to the Midwest or across the country to like train with a guy unless we're close, or maybe we plan some kind of industry day. But otherwise, I get a lot of my training with the instructors that I'm local to, which there's several that I'm local to. I don't post about it all the time, but that's kind of and I keep myself accountable. I get my own range time. There's a range local to me about 10 minutes. I go there twice a week now, and I don't post a lot of content from that, but that's just me working on me.
Did it happen though if you didn't post it?
It didn't. It didn't.
That's science.
And so
if it didn't post, it didn't happen.
But like Z said, social media is a scary place because there's a lot of trash being taught on social media, and if you don't know, then you just don't know, and so you'll follow people thinking this is the way it's done, and before you know it, it's not. And you'll eventually learn that as you progress as a shooter, take classes from legitimate guys that, okay, this guy was not the person I learned from. But on the other hand, social media is great because I can keep up with guys like Z who I don't get to see all the time. I can keep up with guys like Mick, I can keep up with guys like Johnny Primo and all these other guys that are across the country. And I think that the content they put out is great, and it always gives me a different perspective sometimes on things, and that is also stuff that I take in. But I would still love to be a student where I can just sign up for somebody's course and just go there, man. I wish I could kind of put on a disguise and be a student sometimes and just, learn. But unfortunately, it's not like that when you're an instructor.
I'm thinking about doing that though. We should get a video of us like putting on the skies and going to things.
Right.
But I thought about it.
I got a question. If somebody wants to take a class with Z, where do we find you?
InstructorZ.com or TacticalEdge.com.
Where do you do your classes?
Your mom's house usually. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So I stay local. I don't like to travel. My family doesn't like it, so and that's the reason I do the classes, the small classes I do. So down Zero, Kentucky, I do courses there. I do stuff at Hilltop in Dover, Tennessee, Royal Range in Nashville, Rock Castle with Tactical Riflemen sometimes, and in Louisville, we're doing stuff up there, and that's about as far as I go to Louisville, right? So that's me.
Same thing you, Kawa.
If you want to look at my currently scheduled classes, you can go to 2alphatraininggroup.com. Everything is there. Otherwise, Instagram, Facebook, I also post classes there. So I travel all over. I have that flexibility, so I take advantage of it. But a lot of my classes are SoCal based. But I have classes coming up. I'm going to Florida this weekend. I'll be in Missouri in the fall. I'll be back in Tennessee. So I'm all over the place. But if you want to, 2alphatraininggroup.com is where you go to see the schedule.
And we'll work on getting a couple more classes with Kawa up on our website as well. And Z runs his classes, the tune-up classes. Those things are super, super cool. Very knowledgeable and just right to the point. 4-hour class. I've taken almost everyone that he's done, and they're awesome. Kawa, same thing. Pistol 1, Pistol 2, Rifle 1, Rifle 2. He does his annual apprentice program. If you guys don't know about that, you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this year's apprenticeship program is going to start in October in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Central City, Kentucky. Right now is open enrollment. It's looking good for right now. So if you're interested, it's a 1-year program where we meet once a month and we go over all these different skill sets, everything from pistol all the way to low light and a little bit of VCQB and CCW. But that's 12 months long, and in between that you have homework assignments, you have dry fire assignments, you have all kinds of stuff. You'll be teaching your own peers, so it's not just a shooter developmental course, it's also an instructor developmental course. Otherwise, stay tuned for next year, where this will be the first place I announced it, I guess. So next year, starting in March of 2020, we will be back at California for the apprenticeship, and also we will be in Florida. So stay tuned for those 2 locations.
And I'll be at this Central City one this year. So if you guys want to come out and hang out with the bearded dude, sign up on Cal's website. What is it again?
2alphatraininggroup.com.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the episode, we do this every Wednesday, Warfighter Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe below and leave us some comments. Have a good night, guys.
Cheers.